For this particular case, when your firm got this, um, how was the feeling of preparation based on the past trial experiences that you guys had? Like, did you guys feel like, okay, this is something that is very challenging, but we can take this on? Or was it very intimidating and had to be sort of digested, I guess?
That's a good question. I mean, how we got involved was there. So I believe it was about the second week in September 2020. Mark got an email from an attorney in Washington, D.C. named Maria Medvin, who had kind of been helping out, researching, vetting people in the area. And she was like, look, we've looked at your background. We want to get, at least talk to you. And at the time, I remember Mark wasn't committed either way, but he is somebody who he has done so many trials and he does so well in them. I mean, Attorney Richards has done over 100 criminal trials as a criminal defense attorney, and he's only lost 2 in a row once. So I think that's a really impressive thing.
What's the overall win-loss record, if I can ask?
I don't know. I would have to look at it because, different cases are different as far as what's a win and what's a lose. Because if you get an acquittal on the homicide, but you get, a lesser and the person doesn't spend their life in prison, that might be called the win. So,
yeah.
I mean, honestly, he's got a list in his desk. If I wanted to, I could probably go through and figure it out. But no, his success rate is very impressive considering what we do.
Good. Okay.
And juries like him. That's the thing is as well.
That's another.
They notice sorry, go ahead. It's like just the community that we're in is, I know it's one thing to watch the trial and have people have their opinions, and that's fine. But having done trials with Mark, he has an uncanny ability to connect with jurors, and they believe him. And it was something that, a lot of it is idiosyncrasies with the specific place we're in, because of course you're going to get people who are, extreme on either end, but those people usually get struck from juries. And somebody who is able to connect with the middle people who end up on juries is very important, at least in the state of Wisconsin, at least in the community we're in, because, Racine, I actually don't. Our office is in Racine. Racine and Kenosha are neighboring counties. They're both the county seats. Racine County's county seat is city of Racine. Kenosha's county seat is city of Kenosha. They're like 11 miles apart. So, I don't actually work in Kenosha, but I work in Kenosha all the time in court. Right. I live in Milwaukee County. And that's something that, when I was talking to people about the case going into it, that I had a big problem with all the arguments is he went across state lines. Yes. Well, Antioch's closer to Kenosha than my apartment is to my office. Like I commute every day more miles than it took Kyle to get to Kenosha. And that's where his dad lived. But, that's just such a big thing is people don't realize in Antioch, like people's backyards are Wisconsin and Antioch, Illinois.
So, on that note, is it common then for people in Kenosha to be driving those kinds of commutes for their work or for school
all
or
the
whatever?
All the time. So many people in Kenosha will work in Illinois. A lot of people who live in Illinois work in Kenosha. This is something wherein, it's a matter of minutes to get to. It takes, like 20 minutes to get to Illinois. Yeah. So our firm does criminal traffic and, quasi criminal things like restraining orders and chips cases, stuff like that. So we do a lot of traffic and we have so many clients out of Illinois, even in Racine County, because it's so close.
So where do you think that I guess that theory came from the prosecution? Like, why do you think that they were like hammering on that so hard in this case?
I think the reason the prosecution hammered on it so hard is because the media hammered on it so hard. There were a lot of things that, the prosecution did that, I believe were more speaking to the court of public opinion than necessarily the jurors in the specific case. Because that was something, going back to, going full circle, when Mark got involved in this, he had talked with Marina Medvin, then John Pierce came out and personally met with Mark. Mark at the time was like, I'm not going to just be the person who gives you pro hoc VJ admission. If that's what you're looking for, that's not what I'm here to do. It's like, if I'm going to be on the case, I'm going to do it. And they're like, no, we're looking for somebody to be the guy. And that is, how Mark got involved. And at the time, I was very skeptical about it just because I didn't know much about it. But, Mark very early on, went down and met with Kyle and learned a lot of the actual facts of the situation, was able to come back. And, I knew I was going to have to work on it. I had a lot of questions. And,
Understandably.
he told me the actual facts of the situation, things like, that he didn't cross state lines with his gun. His mom didn't take him to do these things, all this other stuff. That early on, getting that information changed my perspective. And this whole thing has changed my perspective on, the media in general, which is why.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about that. Cause that's been one of the most eye-opening things, at least for me and for so many other people, is just the degree to which the media completely flubbed, or maybe intentionally misrepresented. And if we want to be charitable, we can say that they screwed up, right, on telling the story here, and then double down on the screw up. So what were your thoughts, or any frustrations maybe with the media throughout this whole process?
Well, I mean, the media on both sides, honestly, was terrible, just using Kyle for things. And that was something, Mark said in his interviews since then, and also told me at the time when we started with this case. It's, our firm, at least, and, the reason why I was hired to work at the firm is because my beliefs and things like that are very consistent. The manner in which I pursue a case and dedicate to myself is very, similar to the way Mark does. And, we're not political attorneys. That is, everybody has the right to an attorney, and that is our political position as far as that goes. There are a lot of laws that I don't, necessarily agree with, but they're in my client's favor. So I'm not going to, it's one of those things, if you're going to politicize one thing, then you have to politicize everything. And, what I may or may not believe in my personal life, I don't believe has anything to do with my job. And, the media in this, it all is a problem with sensationalism. The reason why people want sensational headlines is because it causes excitement in their brains. And,
right.
It triggers something and people latch onto it. And the problem is, with the way the media is now and the ability to share things, is a lot of times I feel like people think the more that they see something, the more likely it is to be true. But that's a fallacy. That is not how it works. Is, just because you can share something, how many people share things without reading them? And this case in general, and I've told my family this, my friends this, I don't, I'll look at a story. First of all, I stopped watching the news. That kind of happened along with this. Is, I think that is, there aren't too many, unless you're going into independent people on things like, YouTube, aren't a lot of independent mainstream people. And the reason I'm on your show, as opposed to doing a lot of the other stuff that's been asked of me, is, I feel like a lot of times people use stories and things like that as a platform for the person who's speaking them, not necessarily to tell the story. Right. And, I didn't want to be somebody's prop. So I didn't want to go on something larger like that, because I have a very big problem with the media in this. Ultimately, what I've been doing now and, telling my friends is, if there's anything about a document and it doesn't link you to the document, it's not a credible source. because if they are a credible source and are objective, they're going to let you read it for yourself. And especially with all these filings in the case, I mean, anything that was filed on our behalf that was not filed by Corey was written by me. So you're seeing these things and it's like, that's not what that document said. I know that's not what that document said because I wrote that document. So, and then, you know, looking at these articles and it's like, nobody's letting anybody actually read the document. And so that really bothered me personally.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned this at the very beginning because I had a very long soliloquy to do a bunch of housekeeping, but I am incredibly humbled and grateful that you are on this channel to talk to me, because I know you said that you got a lot of requests from a lot of different places.
Yeah. I mean, and I had mentioned to you, like, I mean, Hannity tried to send people out to me, like where I was in person that day after the verdict. And, you know, I, in general, don't really feel like I said, I didn't want to be a prop. But also, you know, a lot of it is to correct the record, things like that. I don't, and I mentioned to you this right before the show, is I don't think I'm going to do another interview besides this one. I might end up at some time, but right now I don't foresee myself doing anything else. This is an opportunity that I had to sort of tell my story and correct the record is about some things. But in general, I don't feel like my job is necessarily about me. It's about my clients. So I think that, you know, if Kyle wants to tell his story, Kyle can tell his story. That's his story to tell. But I'm happy to, you know, talk about the bit that I can.
Absolutely. So I'm so happy to have you here and to get your take, to get the information from you that we weren't able to glean while we were watching trial ourselves. Because, you know, I know we talked previously a little bit about, you know, a lot of the stuff that was sort of in our blind spots that we tried to stay aware of, was, you know, the fact that we couldn't see the jury, you guys could see the jury, you guys had other I'm sure strategy meetings and all kinds of like conversations before trial, during trial. So I'm really excited to get into some of those, the meat and potatoes of all of that.